Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Very happy to see your faces. How are you today?
Very fine.
Good.
We are very short in time. An amazing discussion is ready for us today here. And thank you so much for all the people that support this mission and vision. Today, we are talking about building the new EIC. And what is building the new EIC? It's actually an event that bringing experts, investors, innovators to one place. So we are very lucky to have amazing speakers and experts and entrepreneurs with us here today. I would like to know who is online and who is not, didn't manage yet to join online, but Mark, I think I saw your face already. Mark is a chair and the EIC advisor board. Can you share a voice so I can know that you are here with me?
Everything's good, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. I also see Anna Makiz. She is a member at EIC advisory board and in the investment fund committee. Hello, how are you?
Very well, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Fantastic. And we also have Sylvia Sotomayor, and I'm very happy to see your face finally. Welcome, welcome. Osnat Mikaeli is supposed to join us. She's trying to overcome some technology obstacles, and I hope we will see her very soon. So, as I mentioned, this panel today is actually to emphasize the great work that we see, the new spirit that we see in the EIC today. And I would like to give you the stage, Mark, to share a bit, because you're very active in the EIC. Tell us about this ambitious vision and mission of the EIC.
So thank you. First of all, let me set out the challenge. If you look at Europe compared to the United States, what you will find is that Europe is as good at science as the United States and as good as starting up companies as the United States. But actually, we're rather poor at scaling those companies and growing them into really important enterprises. So that's really the focus for the EIC. We're really about trying to start and scale companies in Europe, those companies to address really important societal challenges. And I guess we do that in a number of ways. First is to produce funding. Two programs, the Pathfinder and the Accelerator, which people will speak about in more detail. But the principle is to crowd in investment, get more investment from the private sector into these high-risk deep tech companies. Then, of course, there is mentoring to mentor the companies. There's business acceleration services, corporate days to link up with corporate clients and potential investors. And of course, a network of companies, investors, corporates, and so on. So that's really the function of the European Innovation Council. And importantly, we want those deep tech companies to be addressing important societal problems. Things like climate action as part of the Green Deal, responsible use of artificial intelligence, digital agriculture. You can think of all of the really important things for Europe going forward. And very importantly, we want to be inclusive. So we want to particularly embrace those widening countries within the European Union. We want to embrace female founders. We want to embrace people who are outside the usual innovation hubs, really to be inclusive. So in summary, we want to be the investor of choice for European entrepreneurs, real excellence. And in doing that, we want to create companies that really give European citizens the future they want, addressing really important societal problems, creating employment, creating economic growth, translating deep tech research into real benefits for the community. That's the ambition of the European Innovation Council, and we hope to do that in a bunch of innovative ways, which both the other panelists and myself can explain further. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, we're speaking the same language. I'm so enjoying listening to that because, as myself being a serial entrepreneur, raising a fund right now, raising also like building W Launch from Berlin, but for Europe, an ecosystem, we all see the same obstacles. We all see how we can compete in a global level, other ecosystem. And European Commission, the EIC, has a huge role in this, I would say, mission to be able to be really successful in this mission. Thank you so much for your knowledge and experience sharing. Ms. McKees, I would like to ask you as well, because you're also sitting in the investment fund committee. What is your observation? I would say, where is your passion when we're talking about the new EIC mission and ambitious vision that we see here today?
Yes, so well, thanks for the invitation. As Mark has pointed out, and Jean David, who is also in the panel, is a real pleasure to be part of the EIC. And I think as a European entrepreneur, I consider myself a child of the European Commission, right? I benefited my company from the European Pathfinder. It was called FED before. And my company now has a very, very strong presence in the US, in Europe, but also in Asia. So I think that I am one of these companies that is a European Commission child and has been able to scale up. So I think that the funding that Mark was alluding is really important, because when I compare my life in Boston or in the US versus Europe, I think that there is a lot of money that is being invested in startup companies in the US, and we have to do the same in Europe. So as Mark was pointing, I think that me as an entrepreneur, I was missing the house of the startup, the house of the entrepreneurs, and the EIC wants to become that lighthouse, that place where entrepreneurs in Europe can go for funding, can go for mentoring, can go for lessons learned. There is a bunch of Europeans in the US, in Asia, conquering the world, and we can give testimony, we can mentor, we can coach, we can help other entrepreneurs in Europe to scale up. So it's really a great honor to me to be part of the European Innovation Council, and I think it's a time for Europe to compete, and this is a global ecosystem work, but I think we have the ingredients, as Mark was saying, deep tech, science, amazing talent in Europe, so we just need a little bit of a push to scale up.
100%, and this push is very critical. I think this is the time for Europe to lead. Absolutely, if we're even touching, COVID-19 situation or impact, this is absolutely the time of Europe to lead when it comes to diversity, which we naturally, a diverse, I would say, continent, and on top of it, when we are talking about female founder. And I would like to address this a bit, because even, myself, I was born in Tel Aviv, I lived in Berlin for 6 years, raised 6 companies, part of them in Tel Aviv, part of them here in Berlin. It was always a topic, how to raise money, how to raise the capital. The European Commission is also investing a lot in Tel Aviv, so we see it as a one big innovation center. I would like to address also for the diversity topic. I would like to hear from you how much you think it's really important, how much you see that we are in a movement, or positive or not positive movement these days. Mark, maybe we will start with you.
Sure. I think it's really important. Innovation occurs when diverse ideas come together. So obviously, the more diversity you have, the greater the chance you have of having something disruptive, something moving forward. And there's very clear evidence that when you have, for example, a diverse board in a company, that company is more profitable than other companies. So this is not just a question of fairness. It's not just a question of equality. It's also a question of performance. Diversity really enhances performance. It enhances innovation performance, and it enhances company performance. And very often what we need to do is to give an extra push. And so you see that in the EIC programs, where we've said we want a certain percentage of female-led, either CEO or founder companies, to go to the shortlisting stage. And that's an important initiative, because what it says is those companies are going to be judged for their funding on the quality, but we want to make sure that there's an inclusive portfolio there from which people can make a choice. And the result of that is a 3-fold increase in the number of female founders in the last round from the EIC. Now, we've still some ways to go. It's not solved, but it's going in the right direction. And the same thing for widening countries and indeed widening regions that are not in the typical area. What you see there is you see people who've got really good projects, but they just fall short of where the funding cutoff is. So with a bit more support, a bit more mentoring, a bit more knowledge, such as companies in, for example, innovation hubs would get, those folks can be lifted. And I think that's a really big opportunity for Europe. You know, we have on-earth hidden talent, both in diverse people, women, and we also have it in diverse regions. And we want to harness that. I mean, if the whole of Europe was like Silicon Valley and we were underperforming, we'd have a problem. But we don't. The whole of Europe isn't like Silicon Valley, but we can lift that performance across Europe and we can perform really well. So I see this as a major, major opportunity. And it's not just some tick box, let's be nice kind of thing. It's got real commercial, real business, and real innovation potential behind it, as well as being a socially good thing to do. So I'm fully behind this.
Me too, 100%. Silvia, you are not here for nothing today, and on purpose I wanted to shift a bit the discussion to you because you're very unique. You're coming from the researchers world, and we all know how much research is a very, very strong pillar of bringing innovation into the market. So please share with us a bit, what are you doing? And also if you can address to the topic of diversity and how you see this EIC mission and vision that we are launching today. We cannot hear you. I think you are maybe on mute. Can you please share?
Okay, now? Is it okay now?
Yes, we can hear you.
So first of all, let me say that I'm very pleased with the initiative of setting up a European Innovation Council, and especially the reassurance of Mark that it will look at also including the gender dimension. This is very important because the gender dimension has been kind of not a success story in previous European programs. I think that the word research is hardly heard in the discourse of the European Innovation Council. And that basically, for me as a researcher, because I am a research professor, I am a physicist, I work in nanoscience and nanotechnology, particularly in the area of nanophonics. For me, that's very important that we work also and that we have the opportunity to carry out basic research in an inclusive manner, as Mark was referring to, incorporating different cultures, incorporating different ages, like young scientists and senior scientists, as well as all the other diversity factors. And that basically calls for consortium-based research of the bottom-up type. I think we need to think a little bit careful about the pool of ideas and proof of concepts that has been generated over decades of FED, now Pathfinder type projects. And these are in the TRL 1 and 2 and are now being used to create companies, a spin-off, etc. But if you go around just picking the fruits of the orchard created by FED and recently Pathfinder, you will have a problem to not have enough fresh new trees with new ideas and proof of concepts. Consequently, the feeding of this ecosystem has to start at TRL 1 and 2. So the company talk, it is EIC is all about companies, I think is driving a wedge, psychologically and perhaps motivational, in the research community in Europe. And it will not contribute really to address the issue of fragmentation. There are very important aspects, like, for example, the North-South divide in basic research. The new member states and the old member states divide. Mark has acknowledged that, but there's no mention on how this is going to be addressed, because the mentoring and coaching has been tried already for at least the best part of 7 years, and it's still a long way to be solved. I think we need to reflect. We need to reflect clearly on that, and also in how we take stock of the amazing European heritage of social science and humanities, which is something that, again, seems to be absent from the research perspective in the discourse of the EIC. I think I would like to leave it there at this point, Mali.
Thank you so much, and we are definitely listening. And as we had like a bit previously this call exchanging idea, as Mark mentioned, we want to be the investors of choice, and we are really want to see much more researchers and innovations that's coming from this as a pipeline, because I think this is feeding the system very, very well. And as you mentioned, and we also talked about that before, this is a challenge. But from my perspective, as I see today, we have the right people that can lead this ship to the right direction right now and absolutely compete other ecosystem. So it's kind of like a coincidence, but today I'm sitting in an office that we are running in the Berlin Senate Asia-Berlin Summit, connecting Berlin to Asia, and how as a European ecosystem, we can compete and collaborate much more when it comes to startup and corporate. So it's well fit, and you see that as a local and as a global, we are on the same mission, on the same vision. Anna, would you like to add a bit from your perspective about the diversity, sitting in the fund committee, how you observe the movement? Do we have enough female founder even that applying? Because we know, and we deal with it every day, that not enough female founder, female CEOs even applying for the fund, for the capital that can be deployed.
Yeah, I think that as an entrepreneur, and I was a very proud EU Women Innovator in 2014, which I was super proud to receive that award as Women Innovator by the Commission. I'm also the mother of 4. So to the women out there, I think you can be a successful entrepreneur and CEO and have a bunch of kids. So don't let anybody tell you that it's not possible, that you need to sacrifice one or the other. But I think that there is a long way to go, because only 2% of all venture capital goes to women-led organizations. So this means that we still have to make an extra effort to ensure that venture capital is going to women-led organizations. In the EIC, as you know, the call for October that it's open now has a special chapter on women-led organizations. The Green Deal call that we issue at the European Innovation Council had an amazing response from women-led organizations. So to the point of Mark, when you try a bit hard to untap excellence, when you try a bit hard to look for those women, for those diversity, you find them and they respond. I think that the issue is that you really need to work harder for diversity. You really need, and really women are, because they.
I think we lost Anna, but we will continue what we started to say. And I totally agree. We need to work harder to be much more accessible and available to see much more female founder, and not necessarily only female founder, but also diverse team. But I want to take it the next level, because we do have Osnat Michaeli with us today. Osnat, it's very, very unique and excitement for me to have you here. A, you live in Berlin. B, you're originally from Tel Aviv, like myself. And C, you are one of the great success stories that came out of the EIC. Just, raise your voice so you can hear that you are here with us.
Yeah, hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
Perfect.
Yeah, Inform is certainly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I had some technical issues, so I'm with my phone. That was the only way I could do that.
Yes, please.
So Inform is certainly. It's good.
We can hear you perfectly. Continue.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So Inform is certainly an example of the power of EIC to help unlock potential for founders in Europe to create businesses that will have a global impact. I can tell you a few words about Inform and the way and how EIC was a very important factor in our development. So we established Inform in Berlin in 2013. We had a very ambitious vision in mind, which is to help cities to become self-sufficient in the food production, improving the safety, the quality, the environment footprint of our food. And when we started, our ideas seemed almost esoteric, I would say. At the time, not many people were talking about or thinking about food security. Climate crisis wasn't really the topic. And we were looked at as idealistic. Finding support was very much a challenge. And we went through a lot of trial and error ourselves. Today, we are growing probably the largest urban farming network in the world, going to reach more than 100,000 square meters of farms by the end of the year, operating already in 10 countries, 30 cities worldwide, with more than 600 employees. And we have raised more than $300 million to date. The first time that we had encounter with the EIC was through the accelerator European Pioneers. So that was an 8-month incubator program that gave us both funding and even more important or equally important, a lot of legal and business mentoring. We had the time to really craft different business cases and models to explore how can we bring this idea and create a product that will be impactful. That was in 2015. 1 year later, or year and a half, we already had farms in few completely different places, from big offices to hotel, restaurant, and one in the metro supermarket. And that's 2016, end of 2016, we received the Horizon 2020 fund.
Osnat, I don't want to disturb you because we can listen forever for success stories that came out of female co-founder and definitely get supported by the EIC when no other investors are there, you know? And this is one of the most important discussions. We want to show that sometimes we're coming from research, we're coming from crazy ideas that after a certain amount of time or several years, because research is taking time, investors are afraid to step in. And this is where we want to show that the EIC want to close the gap. We don't want to say, okay, we're launching something really nice, really big, tons of money. We want to say, we understand the ecosystem, we understand the gaps, we understand the problems, and this is where we want to step in and to solve it. And please elaborate what I just mentioned, because we talked before, all of us, and I would love you to share your aspect on that, how we can do or what we can do more to solve it. We do have 10 minutes and then we will go to the Q&A session. We have several questions, and also Jean David is here, will step in with a great question. So we do not have a lot of time, although we can talk forever. Please share with me, what do you think, all of you, also Osnat yourself as a founder, what do you think we can do better for achieving our mission, achieving our goal? Maybe we'll start with you, Sylvia.
With me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think the first thing is to ensure that basic scientists who work in the area leading to deep tech do not become a species under the extinction of threat. You are either good enough for an ERC grant or you are not at all in the system. And I think this is a crucial consideration that we have to make, especially in countries which are not like Germany or Denmark or the Netherlands, who have a very healthy basic research, TRL 1 and 2 to be precise, support. So this for me is important to continue feeding into the pool of ideas out of which not only the proof of concept, but also the measurement techniques, the characterization, the analytical techniques, new ones will emerge to help ideas in other areas. The ecosystem is crucial. The bottom-up is crucial. The consortium-based research is crucial. So I think it's more support also for that and really allow this to be a pipeline, not just a little bit of the pipeline.
100%, 100%. Osnat, I want to come back to you with this. And I know you can talk about what we can do more, but something you mentioned when we talked before, and I challenge you with a question that I want everyone to hear your answer here as well. Do you think it was easier for you to be successful if you would talk very early stage with also female investor? Would they understand better, or would you feel that you will have better infrastructure or platform to be successful?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think when I've started really in all the panels and all the discussions, I used to be the only woman founder, and it was quite lonely. So most of the issues and questions that I had, I never had someone to mentor or to act as a role model for me, or even acknowledge this achievement, to be honest. So absolutely, I would love to see more women investors.
Thank you so much. Anna, maybe you will elaborate on that as well.
Yeah, I think that for me, to the question of what do we need, I mean, being women or not, I think we need to succeed. I mean, my obsession, and I can tell you in the Q&A, is this technology that you see here, you know, that we develop at the company, can help millions of patients that suffer from epilepsy, from depression, by stimulating the brain, right? I think that what Europe is missing is the ambition, right? When I go to the US with this technology, when I go to the FDA, this is a truly innovative treatment for patients, and it has the potential to affect the whole world, all the patients with epilepsy, Alzheimer's, depression. So I think that what Europe is missing is the the ambition to really have a global impact. And in the EIC, we say solving relevant problems in a responsible way. I think that's what that's the message we have to learn in Europe. We have the potential to use deep tech to impact the world, and we just need to believe it. And the EIC is only a tool to make us believe, but we can do it. We are brilliant people. We just have to go and act. And it doesn't matter you're a woman, a man, or of color. You just have to go and do it and succeed and set an example for others.
Fantastic. We do have 2 minutes because Jean-David really wants to jump into our call, and we're looking forward to hearing him. Mark, your word, please.
I'll be very quick. I think that we need to join up bits of the system. So speaking to Clivia's point, I mean, the ERC is funding fundamental bottom-up research. We need to reach in there to pull out the innovative projects. We ourselves, through the Pathfinder program, need to be stimulating certain technologies. We need to be focusing on development of technologies for the future and making sure that that cutting edge research translates through to the innovation. Then we need to be helping to found the companies and getting them to scale so that they can be getting other investment, joining up with the private sector, the corporates and the other investors, and also joining up with other EIC, other EU instruments, for example, the European Investment Fund, where a very significant investment may be required. But most of all, we need budget. If you look at the success rate in the pilot, it's 2%. I repeat, 2%. So we have funded about 5 billion into these companies, but there was much more to be done. And there's huge seals of excellence given out by us, things we would like to have funded if we'd had budget. So it's really important. I mean, if you look at the difference between what the United States invests in scale-up companies and what Europe invests, it's between 10 and 50-fold less in Europe. So we are testing that hypothesis. We are testing the hypothesis that if you join up the system, if you invest more money, if you focus on diverse regions and diverse founders, such as female founders, that we will have a success. And the data in the pilot is clear. There are already a whole bunch of companies that are worth more than 100 million. And I hope in the lifetime there'll be a whole bunch of them worth more than $1 billion. And that's the real ambition. The real ambition is to crowd things in. And if we are successful, this becomes autocatalytic. Yes, it's hard. But, you know, then people will say, we want female founders. We want to go to diverse areas because we're making more money there. We've got more successful companies. That's really what we want to do.
Thank you. As a jury in the EIC, I have to tell you, I'm very proud to hear these words from you and from all of you today. They are kinking me to close, but we have Jean-David joining us right now. Welcome, Jean-David. We really want to see your face and looking forward to hear also from the audience. I know that they are dropping some questions, so please join us.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope that you hear me. No, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the very, very interesting exchange that you had. I mean, it was very interesting to listen because you have touched, in fact, all the specificities of what is or what is supposed to be the European Innovation Council, insisting on what are our main objectives, but also highlighting the place where we have to do a number of improvement, and it was clearly mentioned. And this is clearly what we are trying to do in the pilot phase that we have launched already 1 year ago. We had the chance to be supported for this by members of our EIC Advisory Board, which is chaired by Mark and where Anna is playing a key role. But there are 20 others that are helping us a lot in order to do more. We have the chance also to count on the feedback of members of our jury, like you, Mila, where we are learning a lot from the ground on how we can tap, in fact, and attract, in particular, private investors. But I'd like also to address very quickly a point that was made by Cliva and that was already echoed by Mark, which is that the EIC is indeed focusing on the scaling up of deep tech startup and SMEs, but is not forgetting the origination of ideas. The Pathfinder part has typically this objective to stimulate the emergence of radical science that can lead ultimately to disruptive innovation. And by definition, it is starting at Tier L1. This is why the Pathfinder project are starting in Tier L1. The main difference with what we were doing up to now in the context of the Future Emerging Technology program, it's in open, bottom-up or top-down, proactive dimension, is that we would like to accompany the member of the consortium a step further and not to stop at the level of the generation of knowledge, but to identify what kind of knowledge could be used in order to create a new product, to modify a new process, and therefore to have an impact in our society. This is the main change that you have. It does not mean that the FET program is disappearing, not at all, but it is orientated a bit differently. So I just would like to reassure you, Clivia, on this. And of course, there will be an important part of the support that will be provided to the EIC that will go to the Pathfinder dimension. But of course, the main weakness of Europe is on the other side, on this incapacity today to accompany the scale-up of our deep tech startups. And as mentioned rightly by Mark and by Anna earlier, it's not a question of our capacity to generate new startups. I mean, we have created in the last 2 years more startups in Europe than in the US. So the question is not this. The question is how to take the risk to accompany them for their growth. And also taking the risk, meaning taking also the decision to stop investment at the right moment. So it's a new way that we are proposing here. And let's be clear, it's a revolution in the European landscape. Because for the first time ever, you will have public means that will accompany private means in order to speed up the scale-up of companies from the very, very early stage, at a moment where usually private investors are not ready to take the risk alone. And Mark insisted on something very important. The purpose here is certainly not to crowding out the private investment in Europe, but on the contrary, to create the condition for crowding in and to cover a gap that we have, a typical valley of death, as usually said, that remains. I just would like to use the opportunity of this concluding remark also to answer the number of questions that emerged during your intervention, and maybe to give you the floor again, because one question, for example, is addressed directly to Anna. And the question was relating to the fact that you have participated to evaluation in the SME instrument. And what do you think of the system of evaluation? I mean, the question could be also for you, Mila, because you are a member of the jury at a certain extent. So it may be interesting to listen from you. I can give my vision, but I'm from the European Commission. I do not think that this is what our audience is expecting. Anna or Mila?
Yes, I think that we have discussed that at length, no, Jean-David, but I think that some of the instruments of the Commission should be much more entrepreneur-friendly, reduce like the burden, you don't need to have a master's to apply to the Commission. So I think those are some of the things that we have mentioned in the EIC. But again, we can make the red tape easier, but I think that supporting research, early stage, and scaling up companies where they have a lot of risk, I think something that we are going to need more and more if we want to boost innovations. So I really think that the EIC, we are going to continue to have more demand than that we can serve. So again, to Mark's point, we need more budget and we need to speed up the processes to really be able to respond to as many startups and researchers as we can.
Thank you. Another question that emerged and that I will personally answer is what is the difference between the EIC and the EIT KICs, so the EIT Knowledge and Innovation Communities. Allow me maybe to address the question by starting by saying that the two are totally complementary in reality. I mean, the EIT KICs, as you know, are structured around a specific thematic. I mean, you have the digital KICs, the health KICs, the energy KICs, the health, and so on. So there are 8 up to now. And they have a particular regional based dimension. I mean, they are very connected to the local ecosystem, which is very important for their strengths. And this is something which is a real strength that they have been able to develop, in particular, the one of the first wave. And they are addressing the triangle of knowledge, and so covering research, innovation, and education. The EIC, by definition, has not this particularity. I mean, the EIC is, first of all, mainly bottom-up, so not orientated on a particular thematic domain, But while we could have this dimension, and we have demonstrated our agility to react, for example, on the need of the COVID crisis a few months ago, we have launched also the Green Deal Call. But the EIC is proposing another type of support, a potential full support from the generation of an idea up to the scaling up of a company from TRL 1 beyond TRL 9 in a smooth way, if indeed at each step you are successful. The two are complementary because by definition a startup which is emerging, for example, from a kick could benefit from the accelerator of the EIC. And this is exactly what we are trying to do by testing it in the context of a pilot with 4 kicks today. And by opposition, a contrario, you have a number of services that are provided by kicks that should be very useful also for the beneficiary of the EIC. And it would be stupid to have overlapping between the business acceleration services we are all proposing. And all together, we are working today in order to propose a global offer from the EIT and the EIC in order to propose something with a single entry point. So the two should not be opposed. I mean, the two are complementary and are providing specificities. But one thing important is that they must work together, absolutely, in order to have an even more important impact. There is a question maybe I would like to send back to you, dear speakers. This question is the following one. Is the extra EIC push sufficient to turn around the fact that European investors are more risk adverse? Can a small push result in the required cultural change? I would be interested to have your views on this one. Who would like to take the floor? Maybe Mark?
Sure, I can start. So I think you need success to breed success. So obviously, if the European Innovation Council can make some initial investments to do that in partnership with the private sector and therefore to decrease the risk for the private sector because somebody else is taking a share of the action, then I would be very hopeful that some of those companies will be extremely successful. And if they're extremely successful, then people will pay attention, other investors will pay attention. So I think this becomes, in the best case scenario, an auto-catalytic process. And what we need to do is we need to start that so that in 5 years' time, people will look at the EIC as the investor of choice. All of the investors around the world will want to look at the projects because they're interesting, they address important questions, and more of them succeed than is the case in other places. That's got to be our aim. Not all of them will succeed, but many of them will. And that's the opportunity to crowd in that investment. Will it happen in the first year? Maybe not. But over 5 years, I hope it will definitely happen. The reputation of the EIC amongst the investors and the innovation community will be the same as the reputation of the ERC amongst the research community. In other words, it will be a place of excellence, a place where you can see really interesting projects and you can invest early and in some cases make a lot of money.
Many thanks.
You so much.
Mila.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Also, all of you, and of course, John David, that joining us. I mean, I don't want to close this great discussion, an important one, before we actually saying a goodbye word, also for the audience, and also for all the people that take their time from a different aspect. And I know that they are really, really supporting the EIC from a different perspective, from a different place, from a different expertise. I would say, I hope this is a new generation on the new mission and the new understanding of what is the EIC, the new EIC is bringing right now. And I know that all of you are to support. And on top of it, like in every stage that I'm saying, we need more successful stories. We need to talk about success. We need to highlight unicorns and reach them before they're unicorns, because this is the peak that they're going outside, and we need to keep them here because we have all the ingredients to support startups to be very successful here in Europe. I would like to say thank you to each one of you, Mark, Anna, Livia, Osna, and of course, John David as well. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope to see you in person very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.